As you just mentioned, Michelle, we have a very special guest joining us this morning. A
Welcome
familiar
back.
face.
Welcome back.
To our Iowa Live viewers, Marianne Williamson, a presidential candidate. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you're back in Iowa because some exciting things are happening. Talk about it since the last time you saw us, what you've been up to and the excitement you've been building around this campaign.
Well, when you're running for president, you sort of surrender to a suitcase. So I've been spending time not only in Iowa, where I'm living now, but New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada and California, which is now an early voting state. It's quite an experience, not only in terms of the outside traveling, but it's quite an inner experience, well, as you can imagine.
Absolutely. So you're living here now.
Yes.
Although you're probably not spending a whole lot of time.
You don't really spend any, you
on
can't
the go.
even remember it's that old thing, it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium or whatever. You can't, like what city, you know.
Now, you were here a few months ago.
Yes.
And talk about just what you've experienced in that time as part of your...
Well, like I'm sure every other candidate, this is not something you do impulsively. It's a big deal. It's not only a big deal within yourself to do something like this, but I think particularly at this time in the country, you don't take this on unless there's a seriousness to this moment, and you're not messing with people's minds, and you're not messing with people's emotions. You only enter into this at the level of seriousness that every voter carries about it, and it's moving. It's moving in all of the primary states, in these primary states. I don't think California has totally gotten it yet. I don't think people have totally registered it yet, what this means. But in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada, people realize how important they are to the process. And it's an honor to be part of it.
You're building your platform kind of from a more emotional aspect.
I don't know if it's so much more. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily. Deeper. Yes, I think
understanding of things.
I think politics in America, the political establishment has become so disconnected from the heart. And when you disconnect from the heart, you disconnect from values. You disconnect from principles. You disconnect from really the things that make life most important. That's very dangerous when you have a government acting without a sense of what people are actually going through. For instance, you could take a phrase like wealth inequality. That sounds like a hard economic statistic. But in people's lives, it's whether or not they can educate their children, whether or not they can take their family out to dinner every once in a while, whether or not they can retire with dignity. And I don't think that we can solve these problems without entering into an understanding of these problems and a conversation about these problems on the level of the deep human reality that they affect. Economics isn't just some issue of data and hard statistics, it's people's lives. And that's true in every single issue. And I think that that's the fact, I feel that for 35 years I've had a career where I'm helping people navigate the consequences of damage done by an irresponsible political establishment because I'm up close and personal with it. So I have very strong ideas about what needs to change, but we're not going to change without connecting with each other on the level of what's really happening in our lives. That's what's wrong with politics.
Now your face and name is obviously becoming very familiar here in our great state of Iowa. People know you as an incredible author, but remind us a little bit of your background and that passion that goes with it, that you want to take this big leap of running for president.
Well, for 35 years I've worked very up close and personal, not only as someone who was and has been for all of these years writing about topics, inspirational topics, motivational topics, spiritual topics, and political topics. My book, Healing the Soul of America, came out in 1997. My book, A Politics of Love, will be out later this month. And I was, from the beginning, a very strong nonprofit activist. I founded an organization called Project Angel Food in Los Angeles during the middle of the AIDS crisis that now has served 11 million meals to homebound people with AIDS. I've been working close with women who are victims of war or people who are working with hunger and poverty. I've been so up close and personal. We have 41 million people in America who are hungry. I was at a school, and I've been with this, and I read a story once about the Good Samaritan, and it said the Good Samaritan, and it was the story was about the difference between a Good Samaritan and a conscious Samaritan. A Good Samaritan is going down the road and sees a beggar and gives them alms, and then continues down the road and sees another beggar and gives them alms, and goes down the road, sees another beggar and gives them alms, and at a certain point the Good Samaritan says, "Why are there so many beggars? Why are there so many hungry people? And that's what has been true for me. In the richest, we have to remember, this is the richest country in the world. There shouldn't be 41 million people who are hungry. This is the richest country in the world. There shouldn't be 40% of people who are struggling. This is the thing. I'm struggling to make just basics of food and rent and healthcare and transportation. So when you're around this as much as I've been around it for many years, you realize this does not have to be. There are specific policy decisions that led to this, and there are specific policy decisions that will change it.
Absolutely, and you're leading that with connecting with people on a regular basis. You had an event last night in Iowa State University, and it looked like it was a huge crowd because people are flocking to you to hear what you have to say, and we have some images from you being there last night. Kind of talk about the message that you were conveying last night.
Well, I talk about the fact that we have an economic system that for the last 40 years has become one in which the idea of market forces untethered to ethical values has run roughshod, not just on people's lives, but on the very values, the value system of this country. When I was growing up, it was understood that a corporation had an ethical responsibility, not just a financial responsibility to its stockholders, but also an ethical responsibility to the workers, to the community, to the environment. You want to feel that whoever owns this station cares about you, not just the money. You know, something has happened in this country, and it has created not only the strong wealth inequality, 62% of Americans cannot get into the middle class, et cetera. But this will not change unless we have some change inside ourselves and remember who's supposed to be boss here. So I think that we need a moral healing in this sense. There needs to be a morality at the center of an economic system and of a governmental system.
Which
there
isn't a typical conversation that's had with politicians.
Pardon?
That talking about morality and so forth isn't what we typically hear with the conversation.
And it's an issue of public morality, not private morality. I don't think government should have anything to do with our private morality. But public morality, you know, we have a government which, for the sake of a $100 billion arms sale to Saudi Arabia, for instance, the Saudi Arabians, because of our arms sale, get the aerial support to prosecute this war in Yemen, where tens of thousands of people have starved, including all those children whose pictures are all over the internet. Now, this is America. We have been known historically for at least aspiring to moral leadership, for standing for democratic and humanitarian values. And for the sake of $100 billion, we're willing to do that. So our Secretary of State says, well, you can have strategic partnerships with people who don't share your values. No, you can't. That means you sacrifice your values. If America goes down that road where it's never about our values internationally or domestically, that's a terrible, that's a horrible trajectory for America's future, and that's why I'm running for president.
And we need to, your next phase is we need to get you, you're working to get to the DNC debate,
yes.
correct?
I want to
so
be
what's that process look
well,
like?
you have to have 65,000 individual donors in order to make it onto the DNC debate stage.
Okay.
So I need 25,000 more people, and all I need is a $1 donation. But anyone who thinks, yeah, she should be on the debate stage.
Right.
And it's not saying necessarily you're going to caucus for me. It's saying that voice should be on the debate stage. Even a $1 donation at Marianne2020.com will help make that happen, for which I'd be extremely grateful, as you can imagine.
And we have your website up right now, and it's a beautiful website. If you'd like to hear more videos, bio, events that are coming up, because you do have a couple of local Iowa events that are coming up, but Marianne2020.com is where you'd like to go so we can get you to that next level. Because yes, I think everybody's voice should be heard, especially yours that is so passionate. We want to mention that you're going to be part of a CNN town hall coming up as well on April 14th. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, you know, those CNN town halls are really important because they're where the candidate gets to really, you know, speak to the people, and the people really get to see. You know, it's very important, as you were just saying, that every candidate be heard equally. And I've been feeling for a while, where's my CNN town hall? So where's my CNN town hall? You know, they call you a long shot. Who are they? You know, I don't believe that a political or a media elite should have the opportunity to make themselves the gatekeepers to say who's a candidate, which is why I'm so grateful to you guys. You've had me here before. And so it's a little engine that could, but we're getting there. I'm on Morning Joe tomorrow and on your show today, and I know when I'm actually talking to voters. You know, there's the dog and pony show, and then there's what really goes on between a candidate and people. And what goes on between candidates and people It's very beautiful and it's deep, and I've been saying I want to have a more honest and more real. America has to talk about some things that aren't always easy to talk about. It's not easy to talk about millions of children in this country who go to schools where there aren't even adequate school supplies to teach an 8-year-old to read. And if an 8-year-old cannot read, the chances of high school graduation are drastically decreased, the chances of incarceration increased. A lot of times political candidates don't want to talk to people about the things of what might upset them or something that's not just about them. But we can't live just for ourselves, and no generation can live just for itself. So having these conversations about what's real and what's going on in this country, a national security agenda which puts so much more resources behind preparing for war compared to resources for actually waging peace. The things that statistically are proven to actually increase peace in a community and decrease violence. So I've had a career where I go deep with people. I want to go deep with people in this campaign. I feel I am, and it's very meaningful.
Well, we appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you very much. Marianne2020.com if you would like to learn more and make a donation. We'll continue to follow you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us
so
this
much.
morning.
It's so nice to see you.
You're watching Iowa Live.